Okay, we're going to talk about doing coral with your pen. The nice thing is about me teaching you how to do coral is the fact that if you have like any rocky surfaces, it's going to be basically the same technique. So I've got it all drawn out here. The first thing that I'm going to remind you of is that we don't want to just trace and outline any of our shapes. We want to make sure that we're shading them, okay? Clearly, this is on top of this piece of coral. So naturally this edge is going to be darker. So in my visual, I actually have this edge is darker. Okay, so either concept is okay. Again, checking your visual is what is most important. So even though that this might seem a little bit more natural to be darker, my visual actually has this piece darker because of the way the shadow is. So I'm going to go ahead and take the edge of my pen, not up and down like this, but the edge of my pen, and I'm going to go ahead and make some really light um, hatch marks. Again, I'm just trying to get like a quick value on there to shade it. And using the edge of it almost makes it look like pencil, which is kind of cool. So I'm just taking that edge and just fading it away. Again, not outlining first. And just adding a quick value. I can also kind of bend and curve those lines as I go. The coral sometimes has these little rocky surfaces, and this is also darker down here because it is going downward. There's also this little lip that happens sometimes on the coral, which is going to be a little lighter. So I'm actually going to make that little lip darker here. And again, all I'm doing is starting out with hatch marks. It doesn't really matter what technique, whether you're doing hatching, cross hatching, or stippling. Those are our basic um, pen techniques. Whatever you think is going to be best. And then sometimes I'll actually end up coming back and almost gesturing a little bit too, depending on the textured surface. So that's actually going to make it look like it is darker down, going down into the coral itself. The coral actually has some kind of movement, and so this piece of coral looks like it's further back, and so I'm going to add a little bit of hatching and cross hatching here to kind of push that piece backwards a little bit. I've got this pencil line here again. I don't want to add any outlining to it. However, I could on this top edge, because it's so light, I could actually do a little bit of calligraphic line. So I'm going to press and lift and press. I'm not really tracing the whole thing. I'm going to erase it here in a second, and then you'll see that some of this kind of goes away. And then because I want that edge to be a lot lighter, I'm actually going to shade and fade this line down. Again, no outlines. If you're going to do calligraphic line, we've got to make sure that you fade away your line. And then once you get like your basic shading done, that's just enough. We want just a little bit. You can actually put in these little holes. A lot of times the holes, I'll just kind of do these little C shapes so that it looks darker on one side and lighter on the other. So I'm creating the illusion that these holes are darker. So I'll do these little C shapes and then kind of dot it just to kind of shade the little textures here. I feel like when you do texture, you're going to have a lot darker texture and more textures where it is darker. Where it's lighter, then you would have lighter textures and maybe less just because the light is hitting it. And so the textures are not going to be like super, super dark or bold. Okay, they're going to be a lot lighter. So this is kind of how I would add that in. and maybe some dots here to kind of show that maybe there's some different texture here and kind of make it look porous. Okay. Now, if you let that dry really good, you can actually I'm going to take my eraser because I want you to see, I don't want to smear my pen. But if I erase this pencil line up here, you can kind of tell that, and it did smear a little bit because I didn't wait for it to dry, but you can tell the calligraphic line at the top, and that just kind of shows a highlight. And so because that calligraphic line kind of skips around, it's really making it look like it's a highlight here and it's brighter without just taking a whole pencil line to trace it or a whole pen line to trace the outline.